Another important concept in React is that of the DOM component. Now, DOM is not an insult here. It's just referring to the fact that we often can write components that don't have state, that are relatively simple. They might just be presentational. They also could call some function that's passed down as a prop. It doesn't mean that they're a one-liner function or a one-liner component like this one is. It's just referring to the fact that they don't have state that is stored in this component. They don't have state associated with this component. They're simple components that are going to be rendered by some parent that passes down the props, passes down the data. And we've already been working with quite a few components like this that are kind of dead-end, end-of-the-road components that don't have state, and they don't do a whole lot except show up and maybe call some prop method, some function that was passed down when you click or when you type into a form. We haven't talked about forms, but we'll see that as well. So we would use this to-do component maybe like this, where we have some other component, a list of to-dos that has a lot more logic that is missing, but it would have probably functions and it would have some state to store the tasks. So there's to-dos in here. Maybe there's a method or a function defined in here called add to-do, remove to-do, update to-do, toggle to-do, sort to-dos, whatever. All that logic could be defined in this one component. This would not be a DOM component or a simple stateless component, even though we don't see any state here. Just imagine that there is state to make it all work, and then it renders DOM components, the to-do component. This pattern is very common. Often we want our state, or we need our state, to be controlled by some component, a parent component, that might render multiple children, and those children can impact the state of the parent by calling some function that's been passed down as a prop. It's what we saw a couple videos ago with the circles example, with the numbers example. And often our application and the components necessitate having a smarter parent with dumber children so that we can have that state centralized somewhere. Like in this case, it's a lot easier to have a list of to-dos, keep track of all the to-do state, versus having individual to-dos have their own state. We wouldn't have a way to access all of the to-dos at once. We wouldn't have a way if we wanted to save the state somewhere in a database, or we wanted to do something with all of the to-dos at once. If that state is broken up across a bunch of different to-do components, it's a lot harder to work with. So we're going to talk more about this concept of where we put state. It is something that takes time to understand, and even once you are really good with React, there's still wiggle room. There's multiple ways of writing the same application, of writing the same components. Where do you store the state? There's not always just one answer, but we'll do our best in the next few videos to talk more about it. Anyway, DOM components are common. It's not an insult. It just means they're simple and they don't have state.